This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November Board of Finance meeting. We are going to start our agenda. First we have on the agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting from October 15th. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
We have no old business. We're going to go into the reports. We're going to start with the revenue. So are there any questions on the revenue?
Just a comment that I'm happy to see that we received our first ECS education grant infusion for the month of October in the amount of it's like $1,099,867. So it's always great to see. I'm also very happy to see that the interest in short-term investments continues to be a great source of revenue, non-tax revenue for our town. And overall, it appears as though we're at almost 54%. Yeah, which is great. Really wonderful. And in particular, our total town revenue is at about 61%. So that's commendable.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's go to expenditures for the town. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Just on page 7, just wondered, inquiring as to, under the central facilities that starts on page 6, the $50,000 expenditure for maintenance and repair of the rental property. What would that be?
Same question.
Yeah, I have the same question as
I
well.
had that too.
Yeah.
Wendy?
Sure.
Yeah, we had to rebuild handicap emergency ramps for 22 Church Street. We also had to rebuild the ramps for 17 Broadway for safety concerns. And we had to replace our roof in 15 Broadway. They were all emergency repairs.
Yeah, I did hear about some of those.
So if I could just interject, so we had a disabled gentleman who rides a bicycle around town, and he almost fell. So that was a real red flag from an ADA standpoint. The same thing over at the KSC. We have a lot of older guys there, older women there, and that ramp was dilapidated. So technically they're ADA violations, so we have to move on it very quickly, and that's what we did. That's why you see these expenditures. So.
Nice to get to that before someone gets hurt. And then on page 8, the police overtime line is just flashing yellow. That's all at this moment. It's just a little on the high side, but I'm sure that by the end of the year, it's going to look better.
But overall, police was at 31.6%, which is on target.
Correct. Very good.
Anybody else?
I have a question on page 13, under parks, track and field facility maintenance.
This is a contract, so the rest of it, it will end up the year as, that's just the remaining of the year.
Oh, okay.
of the
Just an
contract.
encumbrance.
Yes.
I have just
just one thing on page 3, the biggest overtime thing we have is building inspections and permits. I know we talk about this every time, but.
Yes, it's
Yes.
a consultant that resigned, so there's personnel doing the overtime work. You'll also see that we had a good month in building as well, in the revenue side.
And in that same department, you'll see consultants are only at 22%. So we're just picking up some of that work in-house.
Yes.
Anything else?
Let's see. On page 10, within the fire department, paramedic QM, so I think this is the outside group that we pay to help with our paramedic billing, but it appears to be at almost 50%, and a big chunk of that is due to encumbrances.
So it's probably also a contract, 6 months, and then they'll do the other 6 months.
So they're not paid based upon the revenue that they bring in? They're paid a monthly amount
Monthly
or a flat
amount.
amount?
Yeah. I'll have to check into that.
Okay,
right?
I thought that they were paid based upon the revenue that they brought in, whether it be a percentage or whatever. Okay.
I'll check.
And on page 12, just a comment that the tipping fees are relatively low at 16.6%. Of course, we'll have to recheck after Thanksgiving.
Now, the problem is, because the plant that's closed, we've been using New Haven. New Haven is about 3 months behind in their billing, which showed up actually today, which was probably another 300,000.
Okay.
Yes, we check.
Anything else? Nancy might have something.
Actually, I really have very few comments this month, primarily because a lot of things are exactly the same. Overall, again, our overall expenditures are a hair over 41%. So at this point in the year, we want to be targeting somewhere around 33%. But again, some of that is either front-end loaded billing, or meaning it takes place in the beginning of the year, or it also includes some of the encumbrances that have not yet been paid. So.
Okay. Moving on, Board of Ed.
Oh, yes, the good old Board of Ed. You know, if they take any if they give any accounting courses there, they should probably attend their own courses.
The Board of Ed has been really receptive with the changes going on over there.
That's good, yeah.
And we are
There's nothing like
happy
improvement.
being in sync with them.
Nothing, I love improvement. Yeah, there is no medical insurance report or sheet or worksheet that they sometimes give to us, which is, to me, is good to see, since I did not understand it. And if it was included in the package, I probably couldn't vote to accept the reports today. But now I can approve. As we stated before, the surplus from last year is allocated to both medical and workers' comp, even though we recommended it all go to workers' comp. And the medical reserve account just bounces all around. Right now, it's listed at $1.4 million here. So I am going to send out an email to the finance department to request some
Details.
some running balance information on that account, and and how it changes, how it fluctuates.
I'll get you their claim history for the last 6 months, or probably be 5 months if I give
Yeah.
it to you next month. Or I'll give it to you in January, you'll get 6 months.
Well, we got some of that. It's just, I know the workman's compensate, I'm sorry, the medical reserve account is more or less the balance in their medical operating fund, where they make their payments from directly, as opposed to having a separate reserve and a separate operating account. So again, I need to understand that better, and also how it relates to the budget, their budget report that they send to us, because this month, their month-to-date actual for October was $693,000 out of their $7.6 million. Last month, it was $907,000. So I just want to understand the logic of what's happening there, too. So I'll be asking for more information from the Board of Ed Business Office.
Well, they went over on transportation for unanticipated and unbudgeted transportation expenses. I don't know if we could ask what that means.
We'll ask.
Anybody else on Board of Ed?
Which is kind of odd, because their bus contract really had a large increase itself at the beginning of the year.
Right, that's why I'm curious as to why.
I just have a quick question, again, in terms of both the nomenclature and the accounting practices. Quite some time ago, this board set up a special reserve fund for the Board of Education, and we referred to it, this is the non-lapsing fund, and we referred to it as Fund Number 373. And now we have in our reports, it's referred to as Fund Number 50.
In their books.
Okay.
It should be the same balance as our books, which is for auditing purposes. We're trying to mirror both of the GLs. They have a very separate GL that we do.
So again,
It would be the same
50
balance.
represents their books.
Right,
not-
which should be in the same balance that we have in 373 in our books.
Okay, but I noticed that it seems to be like a different format too. Are they not using Munis or?
They use Munis.
They use Munis.
Okay, it just seems to be a different format altogether from what we've seen in the past. And that's the only fund in which I actually see a number. So, again, medical reserves was Fund 692, workers' comp was Fund 693, special education fund was 389, capital reserve was 423, and as I mentioned, non-lapsing was Fund 373. So I think that we should get all of these special funds and the monthly balances, where they start at the beginning of the year and how the money flows from month to month for each and every one of these. I don't think it's enough to just say in their prose, this is what the balance is, because I think it's important to see where the money is going. And I'm sure you have all of that.
Yeah, I have provided, I have asked them for reports. This is what they provided.
I understand. I'm not blaming anyone. I just think that for the sake of continuity and uniformity, it's always useful to be able to say, okay, this is what we had. And as Mr. Hallahan pointed out, I thought it was really useful to have that medical and dental data broken down in such granular detail. That was very useful, assuming that all of the data was there, that it would be very useful to have for both the Board of Ed and for the town. Would you agree?
More is better.
Yes. Okay.
Anything else on Board of Ed? No other conversation, and we need a motion to accept the reports?
I'll make a motion to accept the reports.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So we have some new business to talk about regarding the ladder truck, and Mr. Freed is going to take over for that.
So I wanted to address everyone here, both in the audience and on the Board of Finance, to tell you it's kind of a story. And it's a story this is why this is on the agenda tonight. So, and it's a story that it's an error that I made. It's an error in judgment on my part. So the story starts somewhere around 2023. It was around that time when we started to really hear that the cost of apparatus, fire trucks, was rising significantly. And we thought that how are we going to plan this for the future? So back on or about December 19th or 20th in 2023, I signed what I thought was a placeholder to hold a truck. The truck was a 75-foot rear mount aerial ladder, and the value of the truck was $1,754,000. So I signed a placeholder because we knew that the price would go up probably about $300,000 the following year, or maybe even more in subsequent years. So my error was not really understanding on my part that it was more than a placeholder. It was an actual contract. So fast forward now through 2024, we had no money appropriated for this, none at all. So I kind of look at myself and say we should have probably done this. We needed to do it, to sign a contract like that, which I thought was a placeholder. So there was never any money appropriated with this. So about a month and a half ago, or a month ago, we find out from the supplier that the truck is ready. We have no money for it. So I thought the best thing to do is try to get out of it. We can't get out of it because the truck's already built and the truck is already ready. So I worked with the supplier, and since we couldn't get out of it, they were understanding, but the bottom line was we can't get out of it. During this time, around that same time, one of our engines blew up, and it's still on the shelf right now. And that engine, we know it's an older engine. It's going to cost $100,000 to repair. So this kind of, the confluence of all this sort of happened at the same time about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, with the engine blowing up. So we found out that it would cost $100,000, but it would only be a 1-year guarantee on the warranty, with the probability that something else would happen to it. So as I was assembling all these different pieces, came up with a thought, and that's why this is on this tonight. Since I can't get out of the truck, we have a truck that's already on the shelf that's blown up, or the engine blew up. All the wires, by the way, in that truck are melted. So there's no value to the truck. So we have that truck out of service. So the solution, I think, and this is for the Board of Finance tonight, the solution is that we do a 10-year lease on this truck. The first payment would be taking out of already appropriated monies in this budget, which is the contingency fund, $200,000. And then amortize the rest of it over 9 years and put in the capital expense in the fire department, $211,000 a year to fund that truck over the following 9 years. So the first year would be a withdrawal out of the contingency for, let's say, $200,000, and then every year we would have to put in terms of the capital, the 5-year capital plan, and then 4 years after that, we'd have to put in $211,000 to pay for that truck. There is no value at all, unfortunately. It's a scrap, the truck that blew up, there's no value to that right now. So my proposal here tonight is to do it just as I outlined. The first year, take it out of the contingency. With one truck being down that blew up, that could be an emergency. We take this truck and we do it over a 10-year lease, with the first year being out of contingency. Any questions?
The truck that blew up, or the truck that was permanently disabled, what year was that truck, and did we make all our payments on that truck?
That truck is already paid.
That truck is fully paid for?
Yeah.
Michael, if you remember the year we bought a used truck,
Yes.
that's the truck we're talking about.
So it's the backup ladder truck in Northeast?
Yes.
That's correct.
That's it.
It is.
Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, but I thought we were just continued to lease that, or
No,
did we bought that outright?
Bought it outright.
2019.
I think it was in Ohio or something like that, and
Yeah,
then
something
you
like
transported it out here, and unfortunately, it was a
like
lemon from day
I'm trying to
one.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like
That's okay. Just trying to help.
Mhm.
We end up getting 6 years out of the truck,
Yep.
thereabouts,
Scrap, maybe, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000, I'm not really
whatever we
sure.
get for steel.
Yep. So,
What is the useful life of the other 3 trucks?
well, the one that we're proposing here, which is the 75-foot rear mount aerial ladder, that would be, I'd say, maybe 20 to 25 years that truck would last.
And would that go to headquarters, or that go to Northeast?
Well,
You
we'd work
might
with
rotate
the.
It would probably go to Northeast.
Yeah.
So,
Tower 1 at Broadway is a larger ladder truck that would stay at Broadway.
right.
And this, I believe, is also a ladder and a pumper, so it's both.
Would it actually fit
Yes.
at Northeast?
Yes.
It would
'Cause
fit.
it's much
It was,
longer
it
than the
was
one that it's there
spec
now.
for Northeast.
Right.
Okay.
So we have not embarked on paying the 100,000 because we don't think it's worth it, of course, okay, for a 1-year warranty. And that's why we got that sort of off to the side right now, and that's why this item's on the agenda.
I think what you've put on the agenda here makes sense to try to move forward with the situation the way it is with the new truck.
Yeah, because as I said, it was my era, so.
Or your foresight, you knew something was gonna happen down the road. You have great vision. The leasing on this truck is, how does it compare cost-wise to an outright purchase, and whether you could finance that purchase or not, but, and what happens at the end of the term of this? Is it lease to own? And so at the end of the lease period, we just pay the remaining balance?
So at the end of the 10-year lease, after the first withdrawal from the contingency fund, then 9 more years of $211,000, the payment's over, and then we have 15 more years of life with 25 years, as I see it, so, with no payments, because we have to trade, we take, it's a lease to buy.
Lease.
So,
Okay. Well, that certainly spreads out the burden.
yeah.
Delivery date. This truck is ready for delivery.
Yes, truck is ready for delivery
Within a month or so.
within a month, right, so, yeah.
I believe the chief said December or January, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to say that I certainly support the replacement of a second ladder truck as a backup. That's very important for our town. And certainly given our history with used engines and trucks, which has been hit or miss, I think that the idea of ordering a new truck makes sense. This particular ladder truck that is now nothing more than scrap, as I understand it, was kind of a disaster from the very beginning. I guess my question is, how much money has actually been appropriated already for this new truck that's been ordered?
Nothing,
So nothing.
nothing.
So nothing was required, no down payment?
The first payment is due at the time of the delivery, that's why we're doing this tonight.
Actually,
Right.
it's June, May or June.
Oh, May or June, okay, yeah.
The first payment will be made in May or
May or
June.
Right.
Okay.
Well, rephrase that. The truck will be paid from the vendor in December, January, when we receive it. Our first lease payment would be in May
I
or
see.
June.
And that's consistent with what we've done on these leases, you know, we have a lessor that funds it, that we have to pay as a lessee, so to speak, so.
And the impression I got from watching the fire commission meeting last night is that once we take ownership of this brand-new ladder truck, we then have to send it out to have it customized. And then there's another period of time in which our firefighters, both career firefighters and volunteers, have to train on it. So there's going to be a period of time before it
I would
actually goes into service.
The fire department spec'd out the truck, its equipment they're using, same type of pumps, et cetera. I'm sure there's a get familiar with the vehicle, period. But as far as customizing it, they've already customized it. If it's going out, it's probably going out to be numbered and
That's what I mean.
named.
It's
I mean,
named
nothing-
and numbered
yeah.
and all of those things, right. But
Yeah.
again, I don't know if there's any
I would
other
expect that's
technology.
the extent of what has to be done to it. Maybe put the computer in it, and that's kind of it, I believe.
And sync it up to the CAD/CAM
Yeah.
system within town and so forth, right, understood.
So the last aerial truck that we bought, let's say it was 7 years ago, and I actually was out with the firefighters. We were going up and down with just the ladder to see how high it went, so there's a little bit of an acclimation to it, okay?
sure.
So, but I don't think there's anything significant about the acclimation, because our firefighters are very skilled, but you're gonna try to go up and down the ladder, see what it looks like too, so.
Yeah, but it's a very complicated piece of machinery,
Right.
that's for sure. It's a $1.7 million piece of equipment, and so there's certainly a lot to it. I guess, for me, this purchase seems to have come from left field, however, because I just didn't know anything about it. So when I saw this on the agenda, I went looking back at some of our information in terms of the current budget. If you look at the capital page, which is page 38 in the budget, you don't see anything for a ladder truck here. And if you look on page 47, which is the 5-year capital improvement plan, there is listed an aerial truck pre-order 4 to 5 year delivery, which is this ladder truck, with $370,000 in, I assume, leasing fees starting in the next fiscal year. So not this year, but the next fiscal year. So it's not that this was never on the radar, it just wasn't in part of the budgetary process, let's say it that way. Because the 5-year plan isn't really technically part of the budget, but certainly the capital page is part of the budget. So it seemed to me a little bit of a surprise, and I guess from my recollection, going back, I guess it was 2019, we had a special town meeting in which we appropriated a sum of money from our general fund in order to buy an engine. So not a ladder truck, but an engine. And that happened to be an emergency, and so it required a town meeting, but that seemed to be a situation in which we were paying the entire amount all in one lump sum. So to me, it seems like there's really only 3 paths to acquiring an apparatus that is $1.7 million. The first is a grant. So if we get all the money, terrific. The second would have it be a capital item that's listed in the budget, and then all of the folks in North Haven can vote at the referendum on that budget with that particular item included in it. And then the third is for those issues that do come up that are true emergencies, allocation from contingency or the general fund. But again, I think it has to meet all of the criteria for an emergency. So I think that's where, again, purely from a procedural standpoint, I'm not quite sure how we can move forward with, even if we can pay the first installment, we're basically telling the taxpayers of North Haven that they're on the hook for an additional $1.6 million for something that they never approved as part of a referendum or a town meeting. So that's where I kind of feel like we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, because I support this purchase, but I don't really see the appropriate path forward to actually do this by the book. So those are just my thoughts.
Well, you said the third option, which was correct. It's an emergency appropriation, which allows you to use contingency. One of the resolutions in front of you, which then goes to the Board of Selectmen as well, is enter into the lease. Then it becomes a yearly item in your capital budget, just like all the other leases the town has done, from sanitation to other engines, to sweepers, just a repeated capital item that resolution allows.
But why wouldn't we do this as something we all vote on?
That's what you're doing tonight.
We make a recommendation that the Board of Selectmen have a special meeting in which they call for a town meeting,
No.
and we put this before a town meeting.
You do not need a town meeting because you're not appropriating any funds in this first payment. You're not appropriating any funds, so you don't need a town meeting. Going forward, the budget that has the item listed has a town meeting, which then would appropriate the funds you need.
And then in those town meetings, every time I stand up and present the budget, I have to present the $211,000 and remind everyone of the story that I just told tonight. That is procedurally fine. So I understand what you're saying, but the reality is we can handle this with the proper communication to the town meeting, the budget workshop sessions. So at that point, the Board of Finance is going to be hearing all these presentations. So we're proposing for 9 years after this contingency, $211,000 every year, and then we get 15 years of no payment, and we still have the life of that truck 15 years later. In light of all the fires that are happening in town right now, I find it hard to believe that the public would go against that.
But once you take that first step, there's really no decision going forward. No, you can present this to the budget, you can present future budgets, but there's really no decision. We have to pay.
You have to pay it, right.
Whether it's 211 or the original 370 every single year.
That's right.
And so it's not like the usual decisions that we have to make regarding capital. This is one in which we are absolutely locked into a
Absolutely
contract.
locked in. And if budgets don't pass, let's say, in subsequent years, that 211 has to stay in, and everything, and other things have to be cut.
Well, this, to me, given the unique circumstances of this situation, where we entered into a contract, whether we knew it or not, it seems like a reasonable way to handle it. It is true that the budget becomes the means of the public continuing to approve the cost, but the commitment is made. But it was already in our 5-year plan coming up to next year. So it wasn't totally unforeseen, and it's possible that there might have been other fire equipment purchases in the future that we might be able to postpone or delay to sort of offset some of this, the move up in this cost and in these payments. So, again, given the circumstances of what's happened here and the amazingly incredible timing of the loss of the backup ladder truck, these circumstances seem to have convened to a place where I'm comfortable using $200,000 out of contingency to make this happen, to solve the problem.
I agree with Mike's assessment of this. I think it's reasonable to take 200 out of the contingency and enter into the lease arrangement for the remainder.
I agree with Nancy's concept, though, that purchases or outlays well over $1 million, it'd be nice to either, whether through bonding or whatever, to somehow get some separate public approval, acknowledgement, or support. But when situations like this come up, again, unique circumstances, I think that we, as representatives of the people, have to make choices that and solutions to the problems that we may not be thoroughly comfortable and happy with, but at the end of the day, it's the responsible way to handle the situation.
Is this the first one? Which one
The
is-
shorter one,
the
the
shorter
one dealing with lease.
So Nancy, I'm saying I agree with you, a lot of what you had to say.
So,
Point of order, Madam Chair. This is a unique situation, and in the recent past, this board has allowed the Board of Selectmen members present to comment if they desire, maybe limited to 5 minutes before you take your vote. I would like you to consider, we've done that a couple of times in the past couple of years, to to allow any member of the Board of Selectmen to comment before you take your vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll give you the 5 minutes.
Okay. Bill, would you like to go, or?
I
Okay.
think it was insurers, I was just doing a quick calculation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing, I am still the third selectman, let's see, yes, I am. I have another 10 days or so. This is a unique situation, so thank you for allowing myself and the second selectman, if he desires to speak on this. I fully support this purchase because we need it, and I appreciate the first selectman admitting the error and the, probably a lack of communication, I would think, about whether it was a placeholder or a contract.
No.
But it seems to be a contract. I'm sure you've gotten legal opinion that it's an enforceable contract. So I think that the town is contractually obligated to move forward with the purchase. It's ready for delivery. I was not aware that this was ordered, or I knew it was in the 5-year plan as well. But I also do have concerns about the procedure. I understand the contingency. You certainly have, I believe the first selectman singularly could utilize the contingency for an emergency. Although you have come before the Board of Selectmen before. I remember in 2015, you came before the Board of Selectmen to use $165,000 from the contingency because one of our medical rescue broke down on the way to an accident on Route 15. Remember that? That was not good.
Yes.
And so we approved from the contingency an emergency fire apparatus. But that was the end of it. There was no, the 165 bought it and that was done. This 200,000, which I have no procedural problem with the $200,000 contingency being used, but it does contractually obligate the town in the future, contractually obligate, regardless of if the budget is approved or not. It's a contractual obligation of in excess of $1 million. And therefore, I think it is appropriate to get town meeting approval. There have only been 2 ways that we've purchased major apparatus, and I'm talking engines and trucks, not medical rescue. Either in 2014, in July of 2014, I believe it was, and then in February of 2019, we purchased through a town meeting approval using the fund balance, two engines. And then the other way is this lease to purchase mechanism that we've used. Now, we had delivered 2 engines last year. Are those paid for? Because there is $300,000 in the current budget for fiscal year 25-26 on page 38 for 2 engines, $300,000. And it's only the second time in the past 5 years that $300,000 has appeared. So I'm wondering, are the 2 engines that we took delivery of already paid for? I don't think so.
No.
No,
How
they're
many
not.
more
They're not,
$300,000? So we're gonna have an overlap.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so, but those 2 engines were discussed at a budget, fire department budget workshop. It was vetted, the need for them was vetted through this board at that workshop. And I believe the first time we paid on those, we had to pay $120,000, $60,000 each to order those engines. And that was approved at town meeting. So that, that was approved when the referendum was passed, when the budget was passed at referendum. So my point is, we've either approved the outright purchase using the fund balance at town meetings, or we've talked in advance of encumbering a yearly obligation. This situation, we're kind of asking, we're approving, or we're setting into motion the payment of $1.7 million that we are already contractually obligated to do, of which either the town meeting or the referendum had nothing to do with. So I think it behooves you to consider the Board of Selectmen having a special Board of Selectmen meeting to call a town meeting for this approval. I think it's required by 707 C and D of our town charter, and I think it's required by 7-348 of our general statutes, which requires a town meeting for any purchase that has not been appropriated for in our budget in excess of $20,000. I've discussed this statute with this board over the years on a few occasions. I would just think that you would be in a much stronger position year after year for this 211, especially now that I know there's an overlap to finish the purchase of the 2 engines that were just delivered. I really think that the town will, I don't know if you're fearful that they
No,
won't
not at all.
support-
Not at all.
I don't think you should be. I
Not at
think
all.
that this town will overwhelmingly support this purchase
Right.
because of the necessity, because of the breakdown of the backup.
Right.
Ladder 2, I believe it's called, excuse me,
Yep.
Truck 2 it's called. So this Quint, I think it's called Quint,
Yep.
is the combo for the replacement, should really go before the town meeting. I really very seriously believe that. Because your $200,000 resolution for the contingency contractually obligates the town for the balance every year. I really think it should go before a town meeting, and for you to discuss that with town council and consider that. I think it could be done very quickly. What is there? We could have a special Board of Selectmen meeting within a couple of days, and the notice requirement for the town meeting is, I believe, 8 days. We could have a special town meeting in early December. I just think it makes it a little bit tighter, quite honestly, sir.
Right.
Thank you
Right.
for your
Yeah,
time
thank you.
and
Okay.
attention.
Okay, thanks. We'll take a look at when the
Yeah.
delivery date is, okay?
Well, council
So-
has weighed in.
Oh, they have, okay.
They
which-
wrote, they wrote the resolutions.
Oh,
The first one where the board is approving the lease agreement, and the second one where you're transferring from contingency. I understand your position, Sally,
It's very shaky.
but again, council has weighed in.
Yes.
Bill Piper, I'm the other selectman. I think a lot of good points have been made. The reality is that I've always felt that people vote on the budget in its entirety and how it affects them from a tax standpoint. I think sometimes we are overly fixated on small line items on a relative basis. So this is a major purchase, but it's $211,000 a year out of a $137.6 million budget, if I'm reading the budget correctly. So it's not on a scale, that's significantly less than I think 0.1% or whatever of the overall, 0.15% of the budget. So it's not a large commitment, and we have other contractual obligations that we approve all the time, Sally, as you know, for contracts, that we have with the various unions. And those contractual obligations do not go before a town meeting. They're approved by the Board of Selectmen. So, I could see this going to the Board of Selectmen and it being up to our approval. And it's the reality, like any other contractual approval, or any other contract that's approved at the Board of Selectmen meeting, like a contract for union wages and benefits and things like that we routinely do, that it'll just be an obligation in a $137 million plus budget every year for the next X number of years that we need to pay it off. So I would say that it's necessary. That's why we have the contingency. And as Mr. Frieda said, it's going to be part of our budget going forward, just like any other contract. Thank you.
I just want to clarify some of the wording. It says the Board of Finance approves and recommends that the town of North Haven. So what will happen next?
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen
Board of
will approve the 9-year lease that will
Yes.
happen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, rather
Yeah.
than it, okay, I
Yeah.
just, so this, the Board of Finance is recommending that the town
Right.
enter into this financing arrangement.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So, and then we, at the Board of Selectmen, we vote on it, so.
Right.
final.
And I understand Bill's point about contractual obligations, but if we were to hire new personnel, that has to get approved in a budget referendum.
Yes,
This
Yes.
is something new. This isn't
right,
renegotiating an existing
right.
matter. And because it's new, I really think it should go before the town meeting. But, and it is a major purchase. The test for town meeting is $20,000. This is 1.7 million.
This is the one, right?
Yeah, sure.
And again, just to comment on the input from the two selectmen, and thank you both for your sage input. Again, I went back and I reviewed all of the information in this last budgetary cycle, including Fire Chief Janiszewski's budget narrative, and there was no mention of this ladder truck in all of his requests for capital expenditures or any other expenditures. But I guess the real question is this $1.7 million contractual purchase, even if it is spread out over time, is it technically extra budgetary at this point? At some point, it will be part of the budget, but at this point, is it circumventing our budgetary process? And I guess the real concern is, what would happen if this happened in each and every department, not just the fire department with this one miscommunication? If this happened in several different departments and we were suddenly faced with contractual obligations to the tune of almost $2 million from several different departments, we couldn't do that. So I guess that's my concern is, again, purely from a procedural standpoint, I have some real concerns about entering into an arrangement that has not been through either the town meeting or the referendum process in terms of getting the approval of our town meeting form of government.
Well, I don't think it will ever happen again, because as I said, it's my era, so you're not gonna see that happen again. But we have the overlay of the Board of Selectmen, okay? The Board of Selectmen has a lot of legislative authority. So we're not just saying that we're gonna have the Board of Finance approve it, they're gonna recommend it to the Board of Selectmen. So we had bond counsel weigh in on this.
Yeah.
So Glenn Rybacky,
He wrote the resolution.
he wrote the resolution. So, I mean, we've got mechanisms, we've got protection mechanisms, we got the Board of Selectmen, we got the bond counsel that have already done this, so, there's been some research done on this, so.
I'm sure. And I guess my other concern is for you, Mr. Frieda, because this Connecticut General Statute 7-348 has a follow-up statute, 7-349, in which there are actual penalties associated with any officer entering into a contract in excess of $20,000 without town meeting approval. So I know this has been through some vetting process, but I just have some
Yep.
concerns
I
about.
think,
I'm Nancy.
Nancy, I was gonna say something. Nancy, I think what you're missing is the board is not appropriating any funds at this point. The only thing the board is doing is using contingency funds that have already been appropriated. The other part of it is the lease agreement. There's two separate resolutions here. One of them is funding the engine with already appropriated funds, which this board and the Board of Selectmen have that authority. There's no additional money at this point being allocated. The additional funds will come in the next budget cycle, where a capital item will increase to continue the lease agreement. And as you said earlier, it is in the 5-year plan, and the 5-year plan is part of the budget, just like the employment schedule is part of the budget. There's a lot of things that are put in the 5-year plan specifically for the fact that if we apply for certain grants, if it's not in our 5-year plan, we don't get it. So that is a very important part of our budget. The state recognized that as an important part of our budget.
So again, the legal allowance for this as opposed to what might be in state statute or elsewhere, is that this is not a new purchase over $20,000. This is just a reallocation of our contingency money.
Correct. You're not appropriating any additional funds.
So we're not asking more money from the public.
If you were asking
For
for more
to-
money, you
That's
would have to go to
Or
town
more money
meeting.
out of the general fund.
That's different,
You
right?
have to- If you were asking for additional appropriations,
This
you
is
have to go to
pre-budgeted
town
money
meeting.
just being redirected.
Exactly, which this board has, and the Board of Selectmen have that
All right,
authority.
well, based on that loophole, I can find a way to accept this.
Again, don't we also enter into various arrangements in which we're using bonding? And we could cover the cost of the bonding with our contingency as well, but in the end, we are entering into a note in which we have to repay the total amount of the debt. That is really what we are entering into a contract about, and the contract here is for a lease for $1.755 million. Right?
There's a lease for, yeah,
Right.
what's bonding, where are you
What's the principle?
coming up
So
with
I'm
bonding?
using the same analogy,
Right.
meaning if we entered into a bonding agreement in order to make a purchase for something.
You're appropriating
we
funds
could-
then. You're
We could
appropriating
use the
funds.
contingency for that first payment on the bond, but ultimately, we are entering into an obligation to
No,
repay the
there-
total amount.
There's caveats that come with using contingency in this situation. It has to be an emergency appropriation, which is what Sally had said earlier. And it is an emergency appropriation. It ends up being an emergency appropriation because the truck did go down. So right now, you are missing a ladder truck
Right.
at Northeast. And this is fulfilling that need.
So we have the Board of Selectmen, and then every year we go to the public. We have 2 meetings a year to prepare for the budget. We have workshop sessions, okay?
Yes.
In the end, the public votes on a referendum that would include the $211,000. They're not gonna, unless I'm missing something, the public's not gonna say, well, you can't do the 211,000. It's a fire truck. We need the fire truck. So my feeling is there's protections here. By this, I mean, against the state statutes you're talking about. We have the Board of Selectmen. We have our town meeting form of government. We have a referendum. That future budget cycle will be voted on by the public. So I don't see an issue with this. It would have been an issue if we were trying to borrow from the fund balance or trying to do something that was an unappropriated dollars, so to speak, unappropriated dollars, but it's in the contingency. That's what we're proposing, so. In the, yeah.
Want somebody to read it?
May I have 30 more seconds? Please.
We're gonna time you.
The-
No, just
the-
kidding.
The only difference is the perfectly allowable contingency fund usage contracts the town to that
Right.
211 every year. Even if the people reject the budget, you said yourself, that 211 can never
Yes.
be removed, so they have no say.
Right.
So that's the only difference. But if I were on the Board of Finance, I would vote in favor of this. After my first set of longer comments, you said, oh, we could rethink this. So I'll take you at your word for that. If I were on the Board of Finance, I would vote in favor of both of these resolutions and maybe just rethink the benefit of getting town meeting approval. Thank you.
All right, so any other comments then? Diane, leave it up to you, right? Ready?
Yep,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, so there's an implicit commitment from, you, Mr. Frieda, for future purchases to try to have some separate town approval in the future?
Absolutely, yeah.
For,
I'll be the first one to stand up.
for
because I-
items that,
Yeah.
in this price range.
Right.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay, resolve that the Board of Finance approves and recommends that the town of North Haven undertake a lease purchase financing of the cost of the acquisition of a fire ladder truck in a principal amount not to exceed $1,755,000 for a term not in excess of 10 years. The project may include acquisition installation costs equipment, legal fees, construction period, interest, and other financing costs and other expenses related to the acquisition and financing of the project.
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Okay, now we have another resolution. Resolution appropriating funds for the fire department aerial ladder truck lease. Whereas the fire department has identified the emergency need for an SLR-75 aerial ladder truck due to the catastrophe failure of the truck currently in service to the community. And whereas the first lease payment for said equipment is due in fiscal year 2026, whereas sufficient funds are available in the contingency account of the fiscal year 2026 budget. Now therefore be it resolved that the sum of $200,000 is hereby appropriated from the contingency account of the fiscal year 2026 budget to fund the first lease payment for the SLR-75 aerial ladder truck for the fire department.
I'll make a motion that we accept this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, public comment?
Jenny Caldwell, 69 Kimberly Circle. Couple of quick things. First is the question that came up about the paramedic billing. Just so you know, that is paid for by how we use it. So it's based on the billing. It's a percentage
That's
based on
what
the
I
billing.
assumed, yeah.
The second thing is thank you for approving that ladder truck. It is desperately needed. One thing to consider, we've been talking about this at the fire commission meetings, is that we're one of the only towns that uses our capital budget to fund apparatus, large apparatus. Most towns use the bonding process so that you're not, that the capital budget with these apparatus where the payments are so large make it very difficult if there are other capital needs of the fire department. So I would highly encourage the Board of Finance and Mr. Frieda to look at what other towns do, because according to our chief, most towns do not budget their apparatus for the capital through a capital expense. And then the last question I just wanted to get some information on was the landscaping that happens in town. Does the Public Works do landscaping for most town buildings?
No,
No, so,
mostly each department does their own.
So each department landscapes
Police,
their own?
yeah, police department has a guy that cuts their grass, and they
S- and they
do
use a-
rec. Public Works does do rec. The schools do their own. They use outside vendors, but
Right.
it's all part of their budgets.
Well, the school has its own, facilities,
Well,
people
they
that
also
do
do
that.
outside, like Vandercar Field's done from an outside vendor.
Right. So we had a discussion last night, and it seems like only 3 out of the 4 buildings, there's a contractor that does the landscaping. But
Fire?
headquarters for the fire department, yeah. So who does the landscaping for the fire department?
Departments are supposed to carry in their budget the cost of maintaining their buildings, which includes landscaping.
But who
whoever
actually
the
carries
fire-
out the landscaping, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out.
Whoever that department contracts with.
So it's all contract. Our
No.
Public Works doesn't,
Our Public Works does some. They do rec, they do the baseball fields. But most of the buildings are done, like police has,
what about the library and,
they do rec and library, police does their own, they do fields. They don't have a large enough workforce to do every inch of town.
And the green,
That's-
North
And the
Haven
green
green.
they do.
Right.
So that's why departments were told, and they're supposed to carry the maintenance of their buildings in their budget,
okay.
in their building maintenance line.
But
That's what it's for.
Then who does, so why is it only the 3 out of the 4 buildings?
I have no idea why he's only doing 3 out of 4.
No, that there's a contractor for.
You have to ask your chief.
Okay, my understanding was that the town was doing the headquarters.
Well, headquarters might be Central Block, right? So maybe,
Yeah, it could be because it's Central
maybe
Block, just
maybe
like,
Public Works handles headquarters.
just like
Because
snow
it's right
removal.
there.
Snow removal,
Just
exactly.
the same thing as with snow removal. The fire department pays for snow removal, are supposed to pay for snow removal on the outlining buildings. Everything in center block is done by Public Works.
No, so last year, or the year before, this came up during the budgeting process because the fire department there was a contractor that was being paid to do snow removal. And it ended up getting put in the fire department's budget where it had always been in, I believe, central facilities, or not 100% sure exactly where it was. And when it came back to us, it was the volunteer, what used to be considered all volunteer firehouses, because at that point, Montewies, in the past, Montewies was all volunteer, but now it's career. There was an outside vendor paying for snow removal. There was a lot of discussion at this board, and it was decided that a contractor would not be used anymore. So my understanding is that snow removal is being done by Public Works.
I know they do center block.
They do the volunteer houses because
They
that.
maybe do, yeah, they may have done the houses now,
Yes.
but.
So I
maintenance
just
of the
want to
building-
just make sure that if the landscaping is the same issue as the snow removal, but it sounds like other town departments also contract their landscape. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
will be closing in 30 minutes. All computers, Wi-Fi, and printers will automatically shut down in 15 minutes. All purchases for the bookstore and cafe, as well as library card applications, must be completed by 7:45. Thank you.
Okay, I have
Okay,
30
good.
minutes.
30 minutes.
Just kidding, just kidding. Sally Buemi, 5 Blossom Drive. This is my last time addressing the Board of Finance as the third selectman, so I just wanted to say that it's been very interesting and I've enjoyed working with all of you. I'm sorry Tim isn't here because I also worked with him for 4 years on the Board of Selectmen quite well. I missed 4 Board of Finance meetings in 12 years, and I made every budget workshop, even the dreaded 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday mornings. And I just wanted to share a quick story. Before I returned to town government in 2013, I spoke with 2 people for some advice, and one of them was Richard Perrett. The late Richard Perrett, an esteemed attorney in the area, and of course the first Democrat to occupy the first selectman chair when he was elected in 1969 and served 1 term. And I told Mr. Perrett that I was going to return to town government and run for Board of Selectmen, and he said, "What are you doing wasting your time on the Board of Selectmen? Go back to the Board of Finance." He knew I was on the Board of Finance, because that's where the power really is. That's where the decisions are really made. And he should know, because if you read the first page of the charter, you will see Richard Perrett's name. He is one of the 5 people who wrote this charter. So that is why I've been before you so often, because this is where everything really happens. The budget is the engine that runs the town. And I'm very proud of a lot of the collaboration on major initiatives that I supported, the middle school, the new middle school, the police department, very important renovation, which included badly needed upgrades in communications. That was a big part of that project. Communications between the schools and the police, which in our post-Sandy Hook years is unfortunately essential. So I was very proud to support many initiatives which all started here. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. This is where the action really is. But I'm still glad that I ran for Board of Selectmen despite Mr. Perrett trying to talk me out of it. The second, I have 3 things really, Madam Chair. So the second thing I wanted to share is about a month ago, an article appeared on the front page of the Register about the elementary school. So I think that's going to be the next big thing. The actual timing, I'm not quite sure. But there was this big report that made the front page of the Register back in mid-October that the elementary schools are in bad shape and all 4 need to come down and be replaced. I mentioned the middle school before, and I think we did the middle school the right way. We gave the town 3 different options. If I recall correctly, the repurchase of the old Orchard Hill Junior High, which was then Gateway on Bassett Road. I was on the Board of Finance when that building was sold to the state. I wasn't happy about it. It was the newest school at the time. So that was one option, was to buy that back. The next one was to just start building a whole new middle school right on Bailey Road where the fields were. And the third one, which we ultimately selected, was the hybrid, which was partially keeping the old building and building a new 2-story classroom wing. And so I thought that was a great way to approach such a major decision, was giving 3 different alternatives. And I think, I read that article and it just said, we got to tear down these 4 schools and build 4 more. I hope that there'll be other alternatives. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that. When Mr. Frieda first took office, there were over 4,000 kids in the district, 4,084 to be exact. There's now about 3,100. So maybe one option might be, okay, not 4, but maybe 3 elementary schools will be enough. I don't know if that's just an idea that I have. Perhaps another option might be 2 elementary schools with 2 stories. And then you might say, well, little kids can't go up the stairs. Well, I went to school at Center School, which is the annex and the rec center, and kindergarten and first grade were on the ground floor, 2nd and 3rd were on the 2nd floor, 4th and 5th were on the 3rd floor, and we did just fine. So perhaps 2 elementary schools with kindergarten 1st and 2nd on the 1st floor, 3rd, 4th, and 5th upstairs might be a more efficient way. So I just hope that we will follow the model of the middle school when ultimately this happens and offer the people different options and not just say we've got to replace all 4 schools. That might not be the best way to go. So the third thing I wanted to say is something that I wrote about in my column, which is as I went door to door campaigning this year, and I went to many, many houses, much more than I usually go to in any other budget season, obviously, because I was in a contested race. So I went to a lot of houses, and I was shocked by the condition of many of the houses, many of them in need of repair. And this, to me, was an indication, my friends, that there are a lot of people struggling in our town. And I often mention this, and I have mentioned this almost every budget season, about senior citizens and people, working class people, living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not saying all seniors and all working families are struggling, but many are. And I saw evidence of that as I went door to door, because when you're struggling financially, you're going to pay your mortgage and your rent and your food and your medical insurance before you fix the front railing or the siding or something. So I truly believe there are a lot of people in this town that are financially struggling, and I respectfully ask one last time, because I won't be around during the budget season, to please keep in mind during this upcoming budget season those that are financially struggling here in North Haven. I've consistently said that, and I'm saying it one last time. So that was the third thing, but I just thought of a fourth thing, so hang on, Madam Chair. I'm going to mention something that, this is a little unusual, I'm going to mention something that I mentioned about 6 months ago to Val Gutkin. She, of course, is Mr. Frieda's executive assistant. And I mentioned this to her, this idea, last spring. But then the referendum happened, and life got a little crazy for me from that point on until the election. So I haven't really thought about it again until now. and I have this idea, and it concerns the relatively new bandstand on the green. I think that Mr. Frieda has accomplished a lot for our town. I haven't always agreed with him. I think he's, and he still has at least one more term to go, so he will be continuing to serve our town well. And I believe that we should name that grandstand the Michael J. Frieda Performing Arts Pavilion. I looked up pavilion in the dictionary, and it just said that it is an outdoor, partly covered building. So I think it qualifies, the bandstand qualifies as a pavilion. So, Madam Chair, maybe you could pass this on to Chairman Doheny. I'm going to count on him to find the money in the budget, or perhaps some of our Concert on the Green sponsors will donate some money for the lettering. I don't really think it would cost that much, but I really think that for all of Mr. Frieda's accomplishments, which I feel I've been a part of, to some degree at least, I think he deserves to have that bandstand named in his honor, and I like the sound of the Michael J. Frieda Performing Arts Pavilion. So that is how I will close. Thank you for your time and attention.
And I want to say to you, Sally, thank you for all your service and through the years. And when I met you sounds like a long time ago.
It's only
You
12
were,
years.
yeah. No, you were very kind, and we had our little chats, and you're very involved, you're passionate, I see it, and I just want to thank you for what your service, and looking at the other side, letting us all know that there's not just one side, so we appreciate you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Touche, I echo that.
Thank you.
Yes, very nice.
Okay, I need a motion to.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh, sorry.
Anybody else?
Anybody else want to speak?
Okay.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.